What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is a heavily modified Mike Dirnt Epiphone G3, and it came to me as a broken neck and a blank body. It was painted, obviously, and a neck plate, and that's everything that was on this bass when I got it. I've installed a badass bridge, a bunch of electronics, and it kind of went like this. And this particular one has a very, very broken neck. You know, so I thought, well, maybe I can fix that neck. So these don't break as cleanly as the Gibsons do because they're built very different. These neck joints are very different than what Gibson was doing in the 70s. Even the like a Les Paul, it's very different because mahogany it breaks in a different pattern. So it's a little easier to put mahogany back together than it is this maple. But just out of curiosity, I do have a rather beat to hell G3 neck, and I just stuck it on there just to see if it would even fit, and it does. Fits really well. The one issue would be, if you wanted to try this yourself, that there is a little bit of a difference. If we line up the frets, we've got a little bit of difference in the end of the neck route. But as it stands, it's off about a 1/4 inch. So you could move your bridge back a 1/4 inch if you've got that much travel in your saddles. All right, let's see if she held up. Got a little cleanup to do. It's not too bad. We might have salvaged this. Got to do a little drop filling, sanding. That's pretty solid. Drop fill here as well. Clean this up. Yeah, well, we're going to go ahead and see if we can save this neck. How about that? So there's what she's looking like after a little sanding. That yellow finish on there, the kind of antiquing finish, is a very light spray coat on this thing, I guess, after it's done. So that sands off pretty easy to the poly underneath. I think I'm probably going to end up sanding all of the yellow off. Just because there's no way I'm going to be able to match that properly. But that right there is the brake, and it's looking pretty good. Even the front doesn't look too bad. Gonna have to do a little drop fill work now. So I'm going to start with this edge right here. There's a little bit of drop fill that needs to go on right here. And drop fill just means there's chunks of the poly finish missing, tiny little chunks that I have to fill in with something. So typically that's filled in with CA glue, super glue to you normies. So let's give that a shot. This is the stuff I tend to use. It's super glue. It's Loctite CA super glue. And you just work it into the cracks. And then, of course, I'll have to sand it again. And that's how this works. You put a little bit in, sand it back down, put a little bit in. It's a bit tedious, but it's worth it, because when you're done, you end up with a nice, smooth surface that hopefully won't be distracting to your fretting hand. Of course, I don't have pick guard, pickups, hardware, so we'll be going through all of that. I'm trying to decide what we want to do with this. Do we want to just sand it down and leave it natural maple, or do I want to try and color match this yellow? I don't think I'm going to try that because I'm not very good at it. I've tried it before and it sucked. Or, this is what I'm leaning towards, get this thing nice and smooth and then shoot it black. I think that'll go good with the black and silver body. All right, got her scuffed up a little bit. So some interesting things about the old Epiphone here. They've really upped the game on the quality of what they're doing. The logo on these is below a clear coat. The faceplate on this is a piece of 4-bond, which is what you use to make pickups like a Fender style Stratocaster pickup. The flat pieces on that are made out of 4-bond. This is something Gibson's been doing, on Gibson guitars for a long time now. Epiphone typically just paints it, throws a little silkscreen logo on it, and that's it. So what this tells me is that Epiphone is really, along with their price increases, has tried to up the quality of what they're building to be more on par with Gibson. I mean, they're clearly not going to do everything exactly like they would at Gibson. This is not nitrocellulose. This is polyurethane finish. And that's what I'm going to be going over this with. So now that I've got the repairs made and the scuffs done, we're going to shoot this with some clear polyurethane and see how it comes out. That's all I'm doing for right now. The thinnest little coat of polyurethane just to cover this. And it's not going to be a perfect looking repair. This, by the way, if you're wondering, when I took the bushings out, this cracked and separated, so I had to glue that back down. All right, got the important parts masked off, painting the back side of the neck with black. Yeah, I think this is gonna look good. This is a bit of a flat black, satin black, semi-gloss sort of thing. And it's gonna play really well, I think. All right, finally got enough clear coat on there that I think it's starting to look decent. Gonna take this 1000 grit and wet sand this faceplate down a little bit so that it looks nice and shiny and slick and pretty. Actually, let me put a little rag underneath that so I don't scratch up the back of the headstock. But it should kind of get it back to that factory shine. Let's see here. Yeah, that's getting better. We will keep going with that. Yeah, that's getting good and flat. Got the imperfections kind of sanded out of it. Now I need to go over it with some buffing compound and maybe my power buffer. I tend to use a lot of Meguiar's polishing compounds. They make a whole range of different grits. And if it's good enough for Daddy's Cadillac, it's good enough for this Chinese base. Buffer, this amazing piece of equipment. Like I said, I'm sorry, it was $6, it wasn't $5. But let's go to town on that. See what we got there. See? Polishing up real nice. A little dull, we can keep shining it. Yeah, I'm liking that. So tuner time. First thing I want to do is take this rat tail file and clean up the edges here. Just a little bit. Let's see, how do this bushing fit? Yeah, it's pretty good. Should be able to kind of hand push that in there. I don't like to hammer them in because I have had it lead to broken headstocks before. I think it's time for a new head for my fretting hammer. All right, that's about the way I want them. And the tuners going in here. These are shallers. Looks like the screw holes are slightly different. Let's see if I have Grovers that look any better. Grovers going in. They are the perfect fit for this base. These tuners look really good. I don't know what this thing had originally. Probably something fairly similar. All right, there she is. You can still see the brake, but we like that. We like that around here. Tuners look good. Logo looks good. The shine is reasonably decent. Here is a truss rod cover we're going to be using for now. What do you think of that? I don't care what you think of that. We're using it. So that's kind of the look we're going to end up with, gang. Looks decent, right? When I peel this, I peel it away from the paint line because that tends to help it not strip out so bad. Got a little bit of a gap where I didn't mask it perfectly. Let's see what we want to do about that as we go, if anything. It's gonna look cool. All right. All right, so we're almost done. Last thing I got to do is fit a nut, which I bought. I have a black nut we can put on here. Here it is. Goes on really well, fits perfectly. However, it does overhang just a little bit on the sides, so I need to take a file and kind of clean that down a little bit. Just take this fret leveling file, just kind of knock the sides down just a little bit. This allows me to give it some shape and not give it pointy corners that'll stab into your hand when you're trying to go up and down the neck. That is perfect. 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 So if you check it out right here, some of this is, I don't know what this is, maybe from my sanding or I don't know what exactly, but it's got some discoloration. So let's see if a little lemon oil will make that a happier substance, happier color. This is what I like to use. This is Diodario lemon oil. Guys, our neck is finished. So, guys, that's the neck back in, I think, playable condition. We won't know till we get some string tension on it, but it seems to be fairly solid. Next time around, we're going to break out the body, start working on putting that back together. I got this Leo Kwan Badass 2 bridge, which is what this bass originally came with. Got a new one in. Got a pick guard. Gonna have to figure out some pickups, controls, all that good stuff. Badass has been around for a long time. This is a Badass 2. The original Badass, you had to re-drill holes to get it to work. But this is if you have a Fender with a five bolt pattern, you can install this bridge without having to re-drill the holes because it's got the 5-bolt pattern. So we're gonna go ahead and throw that on for now. Wait a minute, I'm skipping a step. Install a bridge ground. This is a piece of green Gibson wire. I just happen to have it laying around. And I'm gonna go ahead and run this in here now so that we've got it ready for later. There's our ground wire. Here's the bridge, 5 holes for your string through, if you choose to do it string through. See if all that lines up correctly. It should, because that's what this bass had from the factory, was this bridge. And I want to get the bridge installed before I start looking at some of the other aspects of what it's going to take to finish this, namely the pick guard. Got an issue with the pick guard, and I'll show you that in a minute. There's our bridge installed. Give it a little tug on the wire to make sure it's good. It's good. So now we've got something to install our ground to. Now, this is the next piece of the puzzle. This is from Chandler, and this is who I have do almost all of my Gibson style pick guards, especially the big Ripper Grabber G3 type stuff. And I've never had an issue with any of them. However, this is built as an exact replacement for a Gibson G3. And I have a Gibson G3, and it's perfect. It absolutely lines up perfectly with everything on that. But if we take a look at it here, we can see that we have issues. None of these screw holes line up. Also, I think the body may be just a little smaller on this bass. I know the contours are a little different. The body may be just a little smaller because the pick guard kind of goes way over to the edge right here, and it doesn't do that on the original G3. This is more what it looks like on an actual G3, so you got a pretty good bit of overlap there. I think the original body is a little bit bigger than the new Epiphone versions. But it's not so off that I don't think I can make this work. So we're going to go ahead and try and reposition this just a little bit and get it to work. But I want to make sure that the holes, the center holes for my pickup mounts, are lining up with the center of this bridge. So it's going to be something like that. Also, you can see here that the back of this, the body, is in the hole for the pickup route. That's not going to work, so we're going to have to slide it forward and center it up. So it's going to be very close to the edge right here, but it's not so close that it's going to be a problem, I think. So that's how we're going to do that, guys. Kind of been playing on this idea for a while, and it's honestly the reason that I bought the bass, because I wanted to try and work out this pickup design. Line it up. Line it up. This is the Epiphone Mike Dirnt bass. Since you saw it last, all I've done is mount the bridge and mount the neck and throw some practice strings on it so that we can make sure it's actually functioning. And it works just great. The tuners are Grovers, and there's a little issue with that, but we'll get into that later. And now it's time to figure out what we're going to do for pickguard and electronics and all that stuff. And I thought that might be something you guys might be interested in seeing. So let's go to the bench. So this is an original style Switchcraft switch that Gibson would have used on the original G3s. So we put that in there, and first thing I'm noticing is this route doesn't really work for this switch. So we watch this. Slide that in there. We move that around. Now by the time we get that down to where we want it to be, it'll go in. But as you can see, we can't get this over far enough, so our screw holes don't line up, and our bridge pickup route isn't going to line up with the pickguard. So this switch either isn't going to work, or we've got to route the body properly. So can I go with something like this, which is more of a Les Paul type of switch, another Switchcraft, and it does fit in there. So let's see what we get with that. So we put that in there. What does that give us? So this switch does fit, and you could screw this on there, but your pickups are going to be, we're running into that same issue again, where you're either going to have to route the body. So what I ended up with was this little monkey. This is a micro switch, 3-position, and it's not exactly like the original, but it's good enough for the girls we date. So this will give us what we need. This is going to be our pickup selector, and it's going to fit the route the way we need it to without having to remove any wood. Want it right even with this, screws down the center of these two strings. And that's what's going to make things just groovy. So the next thing I need to figure out is the rest of this look. For knobs, I'm going to go with these. These are kind of like MXR knobs. They've got a little glow-in-the-dark line on them. I don't imagine you can see that, but it does glow in the dark. And for the pots, I got the solid shaft, CTSs, and that's what we're going to go with, kids. It's going to be great. These are the pickups that I'll be using. These are pickups that I made. If you've been following this channel for a long time, today, by the way, is the 18th birthday of this channel. This channel's been around a long time, and I started off showing people how to make pickups. That's what I did for many years, and I got out of that business for a number of reasons, and now I'm starting to get back into it. So what I'm doing for this bass is I have come up with these recreations of the original buck and a half system that Bill Lawrence came up with. I've got a bunch of these original pickups and I've studied them, and this is my version of what Bill Lawrence actually did. So these are going to go in, and these are going to be kind of the debut of my version of the G3 S1 pickup, single coil pickup. Tried to go with something that looks a lot like the original as far as the feel, with the clear where you can see the windings. But I also changed it up a little bit in that I didn't go with white bobbins on this. I went with black because I think they look correct. I think that's a good look for this bass, and it lets everyone know that these are not everybody else's pickup. This is a different pickup, and they can hit me up if they want some of these. I'll be producing them quite soon now that I've got it all sorted out. It's got clear epoxy, brass inserts, minor metric, unlike the originals. I'll probably swap that up at some point, but this first batch, they're all going to be M3 metric screws. So now that we know where we're going with this, let's go ahead and build up this pickguard. So that's a 250 for volume, and this will be a 250 for the tone. Typically, these would have been 300, 100. So here are the pickups installed, not wired up yet, but that's what they're going to look like in the pickguard. I think the black with the gray and black of the base body is going to look really good. Plus I got some gray, or not gray, but black pickup height screws, black switch tip. It's really not. That's one of those little rubber things that slides down over the switch, so that I can kind of tie the look together. Gonna have our black knobs. That's what she'll look like. So let's go ahead and solder this up. Let's see how fast I can make all these connections. Let's see just how fast I can make all these connections. Well, that is pretty much it, guys. Let's see what we got here. I'm thinking about doing a little trick that I have done on some G3s in the past, where I add a little tiny switch right here that allows you to turn this pickup on and off. And we'll demo it as soon as we're done doing a couple more things. Now it's time to commit. It's time to drill these holes for the screws. And the main things I'm worried about are, like I said before, lining up these screws down the center of your two middle strings, and then making sure that this edge doesn't overhang, because that would feel weird. It's right up to the edge, but it does not overhang. So let's go ahead and grab the drill, start drilling some holes. That one is already ready already, so we'll go ahead and ready a screw for that. One or two of these holes actually line up for some strange reason. So if I tell you this, you're probably never going to unsee it. But these bases, this one in particular, this and the grabber in particular, if you think about it, this is the big black pick guard with everything mounted to the pick guard. It goes in really easy. The original G3 bridges used saddles that were very similar to what Leo Fender was doing, strung through the back, bolt-on neck. So now I'm going to tell you this. When Gibson put Bill Lawrence over making the basses for the particular years that he was making them, they knew that they had to get into that Fender market. Gibson had never really managed to take the market that Fender had as far as bass guitars. Guitars, they did fine. Bass guitars, they just couldn't crack it. They had, you know, a lot of big notable Gibson bass players, but Fender was just eating their lunch. And Bill Lawrence said, you know, guys, Leo Fender has already done the work. He already invented the electric bass and pretty much perfected it. What we need to do is acknowledge that, come up with a Gibson flavored version of that bass. And that's what this is. This is a big, solid, flat slab body with a pick guard you can drop in easy to make the construction simpler. It's just Gibson, up until this point, had for the most part just built big, long neck versions of their guitars and put those out and called them basses. These were really the first basses that were completely from the ground up designed to be basses. They ignored all the guitar building techniques that were intrinsically Gibson and went with, we're building a bass guitar, we're going to start with Leo's P bass pretty much and work backwards from there. And that's what they did. So to keep it Gibson-y, they did have a very different electronics arrangement because that's Bill Lawrence. Bill Lawrence was a pickup guy. So that's where he made the big difference between Gibson and Fender. And they kept the 2+2 pick guard, and the Ripper, you know, has the glue-in neck that acknowledges more of like a Les Paul type construction. So that's it. So in the future, when you look at these basses, think about the fact that these were really Gibson's unacknowledged, unofficial nod to the genius of Leo Fender. So just a quick demo, kind of got her slapped together a little bit. A couple of little adjustments I need to make. I don't like my knobs. I think I got a washer on the wrong side of the pick guard, which makes one of the knobs stick up higher than the other. Got to adjust that. Tuning machines need a little bit of clearance. They actually touch each other right in the middle, right here. These Grovers is what I ended up going with on that. So that needs to be adjusted a little bit, but you sound mean. This switch here is another little feature that I like to do on all my G3 builds, which is this switch turns off the middle pickup. With the 1.5 system, you've got, in this position, you've got these two pickups. In this position, you've got these two pickups. And in the middle, you've got all three pickups. What this switch does is it allows you to turn that one off so you can get just these two, or just this one, or just this one. So it gives you three more options, a little more Fender-y kind of thing. So, you know, you can actually split it into single coils because stock form, it's always humbuckers. Little lightning bolt truss rod plate, that's the brake from before. That brake is absolutely solid. It ain't going nowhere, folks. You can see the back. It's also got just a little bit of a divot where the brake was. That's it, guys, I got it in the case here. That's the factory case. Absolutely beautiful, spotless. Your Gibson basses will fit in this. I tried them. And I'll do a different video kind of demoing the different sounds that this bass will make. But that's it for now. We'll see you next time.